We are with former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. He is in Brussels today in what can be called his Brexit intervention. Now, he's hoping to change the course of Brexit, if not altogether stop it. Mr. Blair, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
How effective do you think your Brexit interventions are? I mean, is this wishful thinking or is it based on something you know that we don't?
As this debate proceeds, what's increasingly clear in my view is that the government is going to find it hard to get a vote through Parliament on any form of Brexit, any one form. So they're going to have to choose between a Brexit that either keeps us close to Europe, but then they're going to have to abide by a lot of the rules in Europe, or they will break away from those rules. We'll be free to follow our own rules, but then we're going to lose our access to European markets, and that will do us economic damage. And that dilemma, I call the dilemma of the negotiation, that is much more apparent in Britain today, and it is reshaping the debate.
What are you calling for? When you say a second referendum, is it a Brexit yes or no, or is it a vote on the deal? So it is a Brexit, but you'll vote on the terms. What are you calling for?
The critical thing is you can't rerun the referendum. But what you can do is say the British people have got a right to have a final say on the final deal. Because then that's not something that they have yet proclaimed on, and Parliament, first of all, has got to consider it. Now, I think Parliament will find it hard to reach an agreement. If they don't reach an agreement, then it's open to go back to the people and let the people make the final choice.
Right, now you are a divisive figure. I mean, do you think that your involvement in the Brexit debate is strengthening the resolve of the people who voted to leave, saying the so-called liberal elite are, again, here quote unquote selling out our country? Do you acknowledge the counterproductive impact that you may have on your goals?
You know, there's no one who enters this Brexit debate that isn't controversial on one side or the other. And this idea that, you know, all the liberal elites are on the side of staying in Europe and then the people are on the other side. 16 million people in Britain voted to remain. You know, they're not all elitists. The people who control the right-wing media in the UK are not exactly ordinary people in the street. So you've got elites on both sides, you've got ordinary people on both sides.
The EU's draft withdrawal agreement says that one way to not have a hard border is to keep Northern Ireland in the customs union. Prime Minister Theresa May was furious. Surely you must be happy that at least Northern Ireland would not be part of Brexit in some ways.
Yeah, but this is, you see, the Northern Ireland problem is a metaphor for the problem of the whole negotiation. The truth of the matter is we can't have Northern Ireland in a customs union and the rest of the UK not in a customs union. I mean, that then puts Northern Ireland in a different relationship to the UK. On the other hand, if you don't have Northern Ireland in a customs union, there's going to be a hard border with the Republic of Ireland. This is simply an example of what is the central dilemma. And that is that if you want to preserve the economics of Britain's position, so that you're trading frictionlessly with the rest of Europe, you can only do that in the single market. And what the British government are trying to do with Europe is say, we want this frictionless trade, but we don't want to have to abide by the rules of the single market. Europe's never going to agree to that.
Some have called the Good Friday Agreement, in which you have played a key role, as unsustainable. It should be changed or adapted. How do you feel about that, and will we see a return to darker days?
Well, I'm very angry about it because these people are raising this now in the context of Brexit. Let's be clear. The only reason they're saying the Good Friday Agreement no longer works or is unsustainable, of course you can change the Good Friday Agreement if you want to amend it, but they're saying this now because anything that stands in the way of Brexit, and the Good Friday Agreement is a complication for the Brexit people, they're prepared to get rid of, even if it means that the peace of Northern Ireland is put at risk. It's a totally irresponsible position.
So you're here in Brussels, you're asking the EU for help to stop Brexit by reforming Europe. And the EU will say, fine, we will have reforms, but UK, you cannot cherry pick. So we're back to square one, aren't we? It's the same argument we've had before.
Well, I think you can identify very clearly reforms that Europeans are advocating Europe-wide. First of all, on the issue of immigration. Britain's not the only country worried about immigration. You know, you look at the election just happening in Italy, you look at Macron's recent reforms in France, you look at the German election recently. Immigration's a huge issue all over Europe. You look what's happening in Hungary and Poland. There is a whole set of reforms that could be proposed for Europe in the interests of Europe, but they will also include dealing with the anxieties of Britain, particularly around the immigration question, because those are anxieties felt by all European people and not just by British people.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Blair, for joining us in Euronews. Thank you.